Hello, this is Shawn Kenney, and I'm playing some more Kerbal Space Program with the new 0.21 update, and I wanted to do a shot to the moon. First, though, I thought I'd take a little trip to the flight center and try just picking out a basic stock plane, and I want to try out the new SAS with planes. So, Jeb was in there with the last mission, so I figured we got a new hire. And he has no attributes. He pretty much tanked on courage, and although I don't know whether that low score on stupidity is good or bad, but either way, we'll strap him into a small jet to try the SAS. And so I was just going to accelerate up to full and hit spacebar to gauge the engine. This is a nice little fighter, I guess, a trainer aircraft. And so with the SAS, it really just does lock on. Using the A and D, you can yaw and pitch up. Using the Q and E, you can roll, and you get all the movements of an aircraft. Although it is not exactly like a flight simulator you're necessarily used to, but still just I'm definitely trying to get a handle on it. It's still a lot easier with the SAS enabled, because it does sort of lock on and it doesn't wobble around a lot. So I was just trying to maybe circle around, but I was pretty much got into a nice spin and flipped upside down and then ditched the aircraft. So I'm just going to maybe pretend that was a simulation. That's what we'll call that. That was just a trial run. And now with the new menu, we just revert back. We don't really end the mission as we would normally. So when you would normally sort of just hit escape, you can go in that and revert the mission either back to the space hangar or the when you took off. So it would just like restart the flight or take you back to the construction assembly building. We're going to exit out of that and go into the vertical assembly building, and want to work on building a space rocket. So, a space rocket to the moon, to the mun, wherever. We're going there. So I thought start off with a base of our old X1, and well, we won't pretty much, it did work. It got us into orbit, but not really going to get us there. So I was using those solid fuel boosters, and we'll take off those main boosters, and we need to work sort of on our landing craft. So I think what we might do is keep that same little engine that seemed to be working pretty good for us, and what we're going to need to do is get some landing gear first of all, and we'll want to put the symmetry on. I like going for 4, just to, you can do it with 3, whatever you want. I find 4 works pretty good. And in case one breaks off, you still, well, no, you can't really land, but you can sort of. Then we'll get some landing, or some, the retractable ladders, so that we can, when we actually get on the mun, we can get in and out of our spacecraft. So that, I'm not quite sure where the landing gear are going to get, but we'll definitely have enough space. So I also wanted to put some lights on there so that we can, if it is dark at all, also it really does help to sort of judge your distance from the ground. As you see, your spotlight's getting closer and coming into focus better. So we'll just put a couple of those on there. And at this point, we do, with the update, I believe you do need to watch your power. So I want to put some solar panels on there, and I think just on the capsule we can get it with just a couple. Should be all we need there, and just for safety's sake, we'll add say maybe 4 more. Put the symmetry on there and just sort of offset them on the actual base. So we should always have a little bit of power streaming in, and so we shouldn't run out of power, hopefully. Now, what we need to do is I figure that's probably going to get us fairly far. But we're going to need to get this in orbit and get that to the Mun. This is basically what we're going to have to return home on and at least land on the Mun with. So I'm kind of thinking we're going to need some more fuel. So one thing we're going to do is try setting up some extra fuel tanks on the sides of it. I think is the way to go. And so to start off, I'm going to grab the side couplers and, maybe 4. And you can cycle through the different ones. Maybe try 2. And we'll grab some extra fit. Actually, you know what? Maybe we'll try 4. We'll just sort of see what happens here. We'll try... Yeah, okay, so we'll get some extra big tanks. So that's going to give us more than enough fuel to maybe get out to the moon, land, and then get back, I'm hoping. So if we're going to use the fuel lines in the propulsion, and then so we can all... See, now that's one way of doing it, and while it is pretty efficient, it's going to be drawing fuel from all sides of all those side tanks at the same time. So comes a point when, say, they're all a quarter full, and you're basically lugging around the weight of a couple empty tanks for nothing, right? So what we do is it's called asparagus staging, and just to make it easier, what I'm going to do is just put them on in pairs. This is just going to make it a lot easier when we set up our staging aspect of it. So I'm going to take those, and then we're going to put another pair on. So we still have the same 4 tanks, but I'm going to set up the staging a little differently. And we're also going to be adding fuel lines, and we're going to fuel from that tank to the side tank, and then from that side tank into the center tank. So what that's doing is it's fueling from the two sort of tanks, top and bottom, left and right. It fuels to the side to the other tanks, so that those 2 tanks run out first, and then you'll have sort of the 3 tanks that are all full when you drop those 2 side ones off, or hard to refer to them, but the ones that are on the outside of the fuel line that runs to the other side tank. So when those first ones drop off, then you're onto the side tanks, and then those ones will be fueling into the center tank. So you're more efficiently using up your fuel and then discarding the weight that you don't need when as soon as you don't need it. So that's going to be it's one of the really efficient ways of going about setting up your fuel system. You can do this with more tanks, and then nested within more tanks. You can get this as complicated as you want. This is about as simple asparagus staging as there is, really. So we'll set that up so that we have a lot of flexibility as far as I'm not quite sure what we're going to need as far as landing on the Mun and how much fuel we're going to need to transfer. It really is kind of, let's give it a try and see how far we get, and add and take off fuel as it's more required. So what we're going to do is, while that's not a bad little ship, but it's not going to get, we have to get that up and out of the atmosphere and basically into orbit. So we're going to have to add a booster stage. And I think what we'll do is use a similar design as what we used last time, but this time we'll set up some more asparagus staging. So I'm going to get a separator, and we'll put it on the main engine there, and we'll just go grab a couple of those big tall tanks like we had on our previous ship. There. And I'm just going to have to move the ship up a little bit. So we'll put 2 tanks on there like that, and then we'll use the same one that has the thrust vectoring, so we'll put that on there. Okay, now that's as is not going to get very far. So we're going to need, last time we used those solid boosters. This time what we'll do is we'll set up the asparagus staging with some more liquid fueled and give that a try for the booster stage as well. So we'll start off once again with grabbing a couple of those side decouplers, and we'll put them on in a pair, which once again makes it easier for us to separate out the staging. And so we'll add a couple more tanks there. And we still have the dual symmetry, so once I got the tanks on, we'll just sort of get that lined up a little bit. And then this time we're going to use the engine that this one doesn't have any thrust vectoring, but it's slightly more efficient. It has more thrust and a slightly more efficient engine, but you have no control. But because we have that center rocket with the thrust vectoring, that should be more than enough to do any maneuvers that we need to make. And so what we'll do is we'll copy that by holding Alt and then clicking on it, and we basically get a replica of all the parts attached to it, and we'll put that one on the cross section there, so we're all nice and equally distributed on our weight. And now all we need to do is get the fuel lines, and we're just going to set up the fuel lines the exact same way. And so we'll grab those and we'll connect these front ones to the side, and then the side ones to the middle. And there we go. So we have those, those two, the front and back tanks are going to draw first, fueling into the other three tanks, and when they drop off, we'll have full tanks on all three of our engines, and then once we're down to the last rocket, that'll be full again as well. So should have a lot of thrust to get us into orbit, I think, with this. Now I just want to make sure that I'm going over my staging here, and you can highlight over the bracket, see where it highlights in the staging, so I can pull that out, and then that one is there, so we can pull those out. So those are both going to go at the same time, and I'm just checking the other one, so those are the next ones to go, and then checking that engine, so that I don't want that to go when those go. I want it to go. I'm just want to make sure I find the right one. So when that stage goes, I'm going to pull that one down. So that's sort of that last booster stage, and then our main the rocket on their second stage is going to be able to fire. So we have all the staging checked out, and we have one blank in there, so we can just hit the minus button. That gets rid of it. And so it's all looking pretty good. I think this should be able to get us to the Mun. And I think the last thing to do here is just to I always like bringing the rocket down so that it's near the ground, and then adding staging to it. The staging is pretty necessary because you can't really put a lot of weight on those rocket engines. They will just collapse. So you pretty much want to lock that use that staging to lock the rocket in place. And then you want to make sure, depending on where you put it on your rocket, it may put it somewhere up in the staging. So you want to make sure you see where it is, and then pull it down to the bottom when you actually fire your rockets. Otherwise, you really won't be going very far. So that's the first stage. Always make sure it's all your base booster rockets and any staging that you have. And I think we're ready to go. So I did make I wanted to rename that, and I don't want that to be the X1, as we have the X1 already, but did click save and too late, so oh well. We'll go with it. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is looks like Jeb got in. I thought we assigned the other Kerbal to it, but okay, whatever. And we'll put our SAS on, and then we'll hit our spacebar so we can launch. There we go. First trip to attempt to go to the Mun in the Kerbal Space Program 0.21. And so we're going to have our just going to be watching our fuel, and we have those two you can see on the side reducing pretty quickly. Those are going to be the first two that we want to detach, and then the other fuel is, showing that it's using it up, but that's showing the total amount of fuel. So when we actually stage, that should go back up to full as it then starts going down again as it burns. So just waiting for that to finalize, and there we go. We should be destage now. And oh, what the? All right. So kind of messed up on the staging apparently. So I detached the rockets that still had fuel and still had the rocket, so we'll detach that again. Now, unfortunately, we have sort of two rogue rockets. They surprisingly have not, blown up the top portion of the ship. They're still pushing us up, although we have no control. So where I would start a gravity turn normally, it doesn't look like it's going to happen, because if I move at all, those rockets are just going to go wild on me. Jeb, of course, is having a great old time. He hijacked this rocket, and he's thrilled that he just gets to strap explosives to his back and fire them off. So there's I don't know if this is necessarily going to work. We're not getting the fuel transfer from those side tanks, so yeah, it's not looking. I don't know. I don't want to touch anything. I got the SAS on. We're just going to wait for those two side tanks to burn out. I just hope that they actually burn out before my center tank does. Otherwise, that might get interesting. So yeah, always double check your staging before firing your rocket. We may have to end up doing that, but I don't know. Let's see what happens here. We're still going. Nothing's exploding. We're almost out of fuel, but interesting. I can't believe those haven't sort of flung off yet. There we go. They've run out of fuel, and we're good. We're safe. We're really high up. We don't have any orbit, so I better turn over and start getting what little lateral movement I can. What do we have? Yeah, okay, so pretty much going straight up and straight down. So all I can really do is just shoot for the horizon and burn. Yeah, nothing to do, but we'll see. I don't know. We're probably going to end up having to use a lot of fuel in this stage. Probably going to have to do a relaunch of that, I think, but we'll give it a try. We'll see if we can get an orbit out of this. We do have a lot of fuel in this little stage, although it doesn't seem to be having a lot of get up and go, really. So to make sure we have the staging correct on this, I hope. All we can really do is just keep an eye on the fuel and hope for the best here, but start to think that maybe this is a little bit too heavy. Yeah, see, I mean, that's our orbit is taking forever to form here, and we're going to run out of time, I think. So it's a pretty efficient engine, but I kind of almost want it to be burning a little bit faster with more thrust at this point. So let's see here. Yeah, that pretty much only thing you can try doing is just letting it go, trying it out. Let's see what happens here. And we have a lot of fuel to go on, so with any luck, Jeb doesn't care. He's just thrilled. He's in space. So, yeah, we have... Might be a little bit of a burn here. We'll see how our fuel's doing. We're about not quite halfway through those tanks yet. But it just doesn't have a lot of... It doesn't have a lot of thrust, that little engine, so with that, this heavy rocket, it's actually it's not really working very well. A little bit too much weight. Well, we're going to be burning for a little while, so I'll try and check out the view. And really not much you can see, though. Yeah. So we're just burning, hoping maybe we can get an orbit out of this, but I mean, yeah, we're about halfway through those side tanks, and it's really taking forever to get any. I don't even think we're going to be able to do it. I mean, at this point, we should be be much closer to an orbit if it's going to happen. And I say this is almost too heavy, almost too much fuel, I think, going into this little tiny rocket, and it just doesn't really have enough. I mean, if we had enough time, if we weren't trying to create an orbit, maybe it would have worked a lot better if we actually had the first staging correct, and we could get us some nice lateral momentum first of all. But I don't know. I'm gonna just sort of really hoping that maybe one time I'm gonna switch to the map and we'll almost have an orbit, but it doesn't look like it's gonna happen here. So yeah, there we go. I think we're almost out of. Still got a little bit left from those tanks, and yeah, we'll just call this one, fix the staging on the initial rocket so that we can make sure we're going to be able to get to the Mun this time. So I'm also going to try reducing the weight a little bit. We're just going to go to those half tanks and just set it up pretty much the exact same way. And this should be a little bit more responsive, I'm hoping. So we just want to make sure we're in the double symmetry. We get the two fuel lines to the side, and then two to the side and to the middle, and that's looking all pretty good. And just want to make sure those booster stages are going to be all good as well. So the fuel lines are fine. It's just we need to check the staging, and yeah, that was it. Just had them reversed. Okay, so we can rename it. I'll call it the X2, I guess. Why not? And this time we want our new hire with no abilities, and we'll send him to the Mun. He's going to bring us some sandwiches. Who's the intern? We said, oh yeah, bring it up to the capsule. The astronauts need sandwiches. So, he got there. Door swung shut, and everyone was laughing. They're sending him to the moon, or the Mun, or wherever. But this time, we figured out the staging. Jeb got in, messed things up, and but we should have everything taken care of now. Everything should be A-okay to go to space. So no worries. Good thing you had the sandwiches, because you're also going to go to the Mun. So yeah, about that. Good thing, we made you get sandwiches, because otherwise you wouldn't have any food going to the Mun. You'd need to eat. So here we're coming up to the first staging, and everything should be good now, hoping. And fuel goes out, and we separate, and it's good. Alright. So at this point, we want to keep an eye on our altimeter, and when we get to about 10 kilometers up, that's when we're going to want to start a gravity turn over to about 90 degrees. And so we're starting to get there. And say we still have lots of fuel. That's one of the great things about this method is, it's keeping as many fuel tanks full as possible. So I'm going to start tilting over here. I did want to do a little rotate. I don't know, I don't like turning right on the... how would I say that? It's like right, so that the side rockets are above and below me. I'd rather have them to the side. I don't know, it just seems to be more balanced or more aerodynamic, although it really probably doesn't matter at this point. We're just trucking through the atmosphere, and say the side tanks are about halfway through the last tank there. And so let's check what kind of orbit. So we definitely have a better start to an orbit here this time, if we get the staging right, of course. So, and we're just about to lose those side tanks, but then we'll have a full tank in the center, and that should get us pretty close to an orbit, I think. So there we go. We can lose those side ones, and they separate without any problem. And so we have a bit of and just want to make sure we're going to stay at 45 degrees thereabouts until we have a apoapsis over 70. And that way we know that it will be up and out of the atmosphere. We won't have any drag to worry about. And then, we'll start flattening out our trajectory so that we're expanding the apoapsis of our orbit. So that it comes out of the planet and then it becomes a real proper orbit. So, yeah, we're starting to get close there now. And, we've still got a lot of fuel in that center tank, so we're pretty good here. It's just about there now, I think. Yeah, just keeping an eye on it until it just gets over 70. 70, 80 is always good. A little bit of a leeway there. So there we go. We can start. So you notice keep turning SAS off when I want to move, but I don't need to. The new SAS, just move. It's great. So just lock on to the horizon and say we're pretty close to the apoapsis. So I'm just going to keep burning. Depending on sort of where you are in a burn and how much thrust you have, sometimes you end up getting it's sometimes beneficial to stop burning if you're in a large arc. See, and the apoapsis is starting to get fairly far away, so at this point I think I might keep burning for a little bit, I guess. I say we're almost out of fuel on that stage, so I might just let it go. It's still going though, actually, so yeah, we'll just kill it. Save a little bit of fuel. We can do the last burn right at the apoapsis, and that should get us pretty close to circularizing our orbit. And we're still not too high, so making a trip to the we should be in good shape, I think. So just gonna burn off the last of that in the booster stage. We're on the night side now, can't see anything. Yeah. Next thing I think they need is some glow strips, maybe. I guess you can do it with batteries, but if you don't need batteries, then what's the point? Alright, so we're on to the next stage, and definitely seems to be a little more sprightly. Starting to see the orbits move relatively responsibly pretty quickly. So there we go, just sort of circularize our orbit a bit, make sure we have enough. So we're going to be out of the atmosphere now. We just target the MUN and we'll throw in a maneuver, and looks like we got a intercept right away. Alright, well, so that gets us an intercept. I'm just not sure if that's the most efficient, so I'm just going to try grabbing that maneuver node and sort of spinning it around, and it really seems like it's not getting anywhere close, so it doesn't even really intercept. So that seems to be, that just might be our most efficient burn, right about where we started. So try switching that. Yep, yeah, that seems to be about it. Now, I don't know if there's sort of better ways to approach the Mun, whether, coming in from one direction or the other, or certain orbits is better than not, or whatever. I don't know. This seems to work for me. I do need to end up doing, a fair amount of deceleration to, finalize your orbit when you're there, so maybe there's nothing you can really do about that. But this will get us to the Mun. So I'm just going to go and find the blue reticle on my target ball there. And once I do, I can just put the SAS on and just leave it as is, and just start time accelerating a little bit. So trying to figure out what exactly when to do that burn, and just basically taking the time it takes to do the burn that it calculates, splitting it in half, and that's your T minus time is that halfway through mark, and so we'll just time accelerate to that. Now, fortunately with the Mun, it does have a fairly large gravity well, so you have a little bit of leeway, but I want to try and get this as close on, because with only 830 meters per second delta V to get to the Mun, that's not a whole lot. So that is a pretty good burn, I think, right there. That will get us pretty close. So just want to, now that we're getting really close to the target time, I'm just going to make sure we're right on our target mark there, and just wait for the right moment to start burning. There we go. So 830 meters per second, so we're just going to wait for that bar to go down, burning full tanks, and we're just going to full thrust, and just keep an eye on our side tanks there, so that we know that we want to ditch those right when we've used all the fuel in them. I'm not quite sure how much it'll take to get to the Mun. We'll see here, I guess. It's a fairly efficient engine. We could go with a nuclear engine, which is even more efficient, and is sufficient to say drop, to land a ship this size on the Mun. But I think maybe we'll go over nuclear engines in a later episode. They are really, they're great. They're super efficient, and they really excel at orbital transfers. So, they're the engines to use when you're going to really interplanetary. Any other planet you want to go to, you're going to want to incorporate nuclear engines into your design somehow. Just because you get your most bang for your buck. The thing is, they are really heavy themselves, so having a lot of those engines that you're sort of discarding, like they don't make sense to put on side stages that you're just going to be ditching if you're going to be using them for a while. It also sort of, you've got to be careful what you want to land on. Some of my previous videos, like I was using 4 of them to try and land a fairly heavy rover, right? Basically about 3 of those big canister tanks. And that's pretty much about their limit, at least for 4 of them. They don't have a lot of thrust, but they're really great for really long burns. Now, that's the other thing, is you're trying to go some places in the planets, it can be like a 7-8 minute long burn, which can be a little dull, but better to get there and home than not get there quickly. So we're just about done on our burn. We're almost done on the side tanks, so it seems to be almost exactly just using our initial tanks there. So yeah, we can lose those, and those shut off pretty quickly. So we almost have an intercept. I think we just need a little boost, and we should have. And there we go. Okay, so we have a MUN intercept. So right on, we have two side tanks full plus our main little tank. We just might do this. So we can just go a little time acceleration, and I guess we're targeted on the planet. Let's target ourselves. We want to follow ourselves, and for whatever reason, does not want me to target my ship. Yeah. Add maneuver node. Yeah, no, I don't want to do that. I want to follow my ship. We'll just maybe make sure it's further away, I guess, maybe. And there, okay. Whatever game. Alright, we just want to get to the MUN, and I'm not quite sure. Is it trying to decide there what kind of intercept? Alright, so there we are, we're intercepted. So we'll just accelerate a little bit time to so that we get close to that periapsis, and so we can get more efficient burn to decelerate us into a MUN orbit. And don't want to go too fast though and overshoot, which is what I'm always doing with these time accelerations. So I mean, we still got a bit of ways to go, but whatever. We can start a burn now. It shouldn't be too bad. So we just lock on, fire full, and let's keep an eye on our thrusters. So we got those side fuel, because that side fuel is we're going to have to use to fully decelerate and then hopefully land, and we want to have enough fuel to get home as well. So checking out the stats on Erdwin. What was this guy's name? I forget. But he had no stats. He had the least amount of stats. So we got him fetching sandwiches and coffees and tricked him into the capsule, and then sent him to the MUN. It's just what things we do here for science. Alright, so we have an orbit. I want to try and circularize it a little bit to get a lay of the land. As you can see, the MUN's been completely redone. It's just like full of craters. It's looking really good. It's really cool. So I'm just going to time accelerated a little too fast, went past the periapsis, but it should be okay. We just want to shrink down the orbit a little bit. Hopefully won't use too much fuel, but you want to try to circularize the orbit and get a good look of where we want to try and land. With all these new craters, got to be really careful. You don't want to get some place that looks flat, and when you get down there, all of a sudden it has a bunch of hilly craters that you weren't expecting. So, I'm kind of thinking maybe inside one of these big craters, there's lots of little craters inside them, but who knows? Where can we go and say there's like a plateau there, but how high is it, right? Like, usually those darker areas mean it's closer to sort of the zero level of the planet. So that means your altimeter works kind of pretty good. See, that crater kind of looks pretty cool, and it is kind of on the same. We wouldn't need to change our orbit very much, I think, to get to it, but it's still kind of in the dark side. So I want to time accelerate a little bit, and it did a little too fast there. So that maybe we'll try. Yeah, we'll click on the planet, the MUN itself, and let that get in. There we go. So now we have it in daylight. And I just thought maybe we'd do a little time acceleration as we got a closer view of the MUN in the daylight here. Have a look at all the new craters and the retexturing that they've done. It's just looking amazing. This is a hunk of rock that's been hit by lots of other hunks of rock over the ages. Look at that. So that's going to be our target. I mean, I suppose maybe I could try doing deceleration now, but maybe we'll just wait one more orbit. That's not a big deal. Yeah, that's pretty cool. All those craters just everywhere. It's amazing. Alright, so we'll swing around and then we'll land in that big crater now it'll be like midday, so that'll be good. Alright, so I just want to maybe try to figure out a descent. I'm just going to slow time down a bit and maybe sort of play around with the maneuver node, see what kind of... I'll have to do a bit of a twist, but it's seems, it doesn't take a whole lot of fuel. So I thought maybe twist it around a little bit, maybe. But what I think maybe I'll do, maybe what we should do is try it here, and like just do a little twist at that point, and then when I'm over it, I'll be able to do a deceleration burn. So maybe build a little deceleration. We don't want to get too high of an orbit. Alright, so that's, but what was going on there? It's like giving me a zero amount. So, and it's purple, and that's not right. Okay, you know what? It's, I had another maneuver node. So, there, delete that one. Now I'll be able to put a maneuver node that will actually work for me here. Yeah, that's looking a little bit better. So if we just twist it, shrink it down a little bit, and try and get it centered over that, maybe it's not quite, but we can do like another burn right around there, and try and decelerate us quite a bit. Alright, so I think this just might work here. So we're going to lock on to our blue reticle, and won't be a very long burn at all, so I think we're just about 10 seconds out or so. We'll time accelerate to that. And, with these we want to try and be fairly accurate, because if you do the burn at different times, it's going to really change, what you end up with, what kind of orbit you end up with. So I'm going to just wait for the last moment here. Final countdown. Preparing for deceleration burn. And there we go. So we have a fair amount of fuel. We're doing alright. So you don't want to spend too much fuel trying to do orbital changes like this. Rather spend it decelerating and trying to land. But okay, I think we're lined up. Those side tanks, we're about halfway through them, so we should be okay. And I'm just going to get a maneuver node here, just sort of, what a full stop's going to kind of give us. Unfortunately, sometimes they get twisted around, so I'm not quite sure whether I'm doing the right one or not. No, I had a separate one, had the previous node as well on there, so we got to take care of that. So let's just try again, and yeah. Alright, that's getting us into the crater. Close enough, I think, anyways. So I think we can lock on there, and once we get closer, anyways, I'm going to be going off that reticle, the deceleration node, anyways. I'll just be killing that maneuver node. It's more just sort of giving me an idea of how much thrust I'm going to need, and sort of, I can keep an eye on that, compare it to how much fuel we have, and maybe try and make a rough estimate of how much thrust we have available and whatnot. So we can time accelerate here until we get to those last critical moments, of course. Say around 20 kilometers up is kind of the point where you really have to start making your decisions, depending on how fast you're coming in, of course. But it really, you have to sort of know whether you're going to be able to decelerate fast enough. Like we're coming in really hot, like 400 or 500 meters per second. So I mean, this is going to be a big long burn, killing off most of our speed here. And we're doing that sort of while we're still fairly high, because it's basically going to sort of like burn now, let us drop down to about the 20 kilometer mark again, and then sort of burn so that we're not coming down too quickly. Like you sort of have to judge that on your rocket as well, like how responsive it is. That's one of the reasons I'm not using a nuclear engine in this particular case, because while a nuclear engine is great, you can sort of do a slow, controlled burn all the way down to the surface and have it sort of running almost constantly, and you'll have the fuel efficiency to do it. This rocket's a little more, it's giving a little more reaction, so you can sort of come in a little bit hotter, burn faster, and really decelerate. So, like I say, I can just time accelerate here until, say we're coming down pretty close here, maybe about 56 kilometers up and closing. So we still have a little bit of fuel in those side tanks. Going to be, I think, say, pretty much in the final phase here, so we're going to have to be really watching it. Say we're still traveling pretty quickly, but I'm going to be waiting until about 20 kilometers up before I do my first burn. And I'm not even going to really take us down to zero or anything. I'm maybe about 100 meters per second or so. If I think I can bleed off 100 meters per second pretty quickly with the engines I have, then that's not a problem. Like if you're coming down with just a couple hundred meters per second, and in a few seconds you can burn off like 100 meters per second speed, then you have a little bit of flexibility. If we're using a nuclear engine and say that took like half a minute, then you really have to be thinking ahead. So here we go. We're starting to get really close. So I want to start. Well, we're not quite there yet, but we're coming down nice and. Say I want to line up those green reticle. That's basically our deceleration vector, and the little dot in the center. That's basically means you're going straight up and straight down. So we want to make sure that we're on that green reticle, and that should move the green reticle right onto the center of that target, and that means that we're going to be coming straight down. And because you do have to compensate for if you're drifting at all a little bit, and also the rotation of the planet. The moon is going to continue to rotate even when you're trying to land on it. It doesn't care. It really doesn't care. It's going to keep rotating no matter what you try and do. So there we go. We used up our side tanks. We're down to the last little fuel that's going to have to get us home as well. We'll put the landing gear down and turn the lights on so that when we do get closer, we'll be able to see the lights shining on the ground. That'll give us a bit of point of reference as to how far we are. And so at this point, just I don't want us to be coming down too quickly, but I also don't want to be burning off a lot of fuel either. And we don't need to be sort of hanging there in the air, coming down really slowly for a long time. But you're always, trying to judge that. We don't really know what altitude the ground is going to be at, whether that's at, 100 meters or 500 meters or 2,000 meters. So, that's when I'm going to have to use lights. Lights will help give us an actual judgment. There is a radar altimeter in the cockpit that you can use if you want to do this as instrumentation. I can't do that. I'm not that good. I'm sure there's people that have landed on the Mun plenty of times just using being inside the cockpit. It's hats off to you. I don't know how you do it. But that there is that tool that is available. But in the meantime, I just use lights and try and go. That's why I try and land inside craters as well, because that's going to give you the closest to zero ground level. So that'll give you a point of reference as well. You're not surprised, like, oh, what? I'm still 5,000 meters up, and why is the ground like rushing at me? I thought I had time to prepare when you don't. But here we're starting to get pretty close. Kind of just sort of like pulse. I'm going to start pulsing my engine. I just sort of want to kill off speed. I don't want to start going up again, and because that runs the risk of giving me a more lateral movement. So I just sort of want to keep dropping, but I don't want to be dropping too quickly. But I don't want to spend all the fuel to run the engines constantly. So yeah, always balancing a fair amount of things going on. My friend has messaged me. He's realized that you need to have solar panels on your ships. Otherwise, you do run out of power. And like I said, I thought that was the case. I'm glad I put some solar panels on. Yeah. So we're just about 3 kilometers up. It's like we're in the final stages now. I'm really trying to keep an eye out to see any change as far as the light goes. Sometimes if I'm not seeing anything, I'll try clicking on and off, see maybe I'm just not noticing it. But we're coming down. So I'm going to give it just sort of a little bit of thrust. I'm going to try and keep my velocity pretty slow at this point. I'll like pulse it up, kill any speed, turn off my engines, and then sort of start slowly throttling up the engines to try and get that point where you're not decelerating anymore. Maybe you're just sort of slowly decelerating. Yeah, so you want to try that balance, so you almost got neutral velocity. You're not accelerating one way or the other. And so we see the lights. Kind of trying to get in hover mode. And I find one of the best, what tends to work for me is sort of really getting as close to the ground as you think you can do it. So just a little pulse and it'll start going up, and then you get all panicky if you're moving. So I'm pretty close there, and I just want to kill my engines at the last moment. And because if we hit the ground and the engines are going, it has a real tendency to tip us over. But luckily we're on the Mun. First Kerbal on the Mun in 0.21. It looks like we have a bit of an angle going on there, but we'll deploy the ladders and send our Kerbal out on an EVA to check it out. He came with sandwiches and he left with moon rocks. And if you had an inventory that he could pick up moon rocks, but wow, look at that. Isn't that amazing? We made it to the Mun. Oh, look at that, really low gravity. It's true. But it is not made out of cheese. So says Kerbal Science. It's actually made out of rock. But that's good. We can plant a flag in it and call this our first landing site on the Mun in 0.21. Alright. Here we'll call this Erdwin's Field Day. That'll work. Yeah. He was just an intern, bringing in hoagies to the astronauts because they were hungry. They gave him a big long order. He had to go out to the store. No tomatoes on this one, but this one's half vinegar. This one's half mayonnaise. All the silly stuff they get you to do, and then they tricked him into a rocket and sent him to the moon. But at least he has all those sandwiches, so he's got something to eat. Now I'm wondering whether he can actually get a shot of whether we'll be able to see Kerbin with it. I'm not sure is the Mun tidally locked or not. I decided to maybe accelerate, and it turns out it appears to be. So we'll never be able to see Kerbin from where we landed, no matter how much I accelerate time. So I guess it's time to head back home, see if we can make it back. We'll leave at night, head up the ladders. Hopefully we have enough fuel to get home. We got over half that tank left, so chances are good. We might be able to do it. We still have some RCS left in the capsule, so it's kind of like an emergency system in case we need that. And so, going to make sure SAS is on, do all our final checklists, which is pretty much we have fuel in the tank and we have thrusters. Okay, turn the thrusters on. And since we have no atmosphere to really worry about, we can just start going right at about a 45-degree angle until we get an apoapsis that we're happy with it. Since it's really not going to, we just need it to be high enough that we don't intercept with anything on the actual Mun, and since there's no atmosphere to worry about, theoretically you could orbit 10 feet above the surface if it was perfectly smooth and didn't have anything sticking out of it, which of course it does. So yeah, theoretical mind puzzle versus reality, of course, but never really works. But we're just get a slight apoapsis, and we'll just wait until we're close to it to get the most bang for our buck, and try and expand our orbit out. So we'll just max out our thrust here, see what we get. So we're about halfway through our fuel. Actually more. It's like a quarter. It's going to be close, whatever we do. So there we go. That's extending out a fair bit. We'll kill it there, and we'll wait till we're closer to that apoapsis again, and burn close to that. That'll extend our orbit out more, and it should give us make sure that we don't end up colliding with the Mun again, which would not be fun. We had a nice little landing. We don't want to ruin that with a hard impact at like 500 meters per second or more. That would not be fun. So, alright, we got enough to get in orbit. So at this point I'm just going to burn off the rest of the fuel, see if we can get out of the Mun's gravity well in there. Okay, so we'll be in Kerbin's. It's a smaller orbit. That should work, I think. Alright, so we can just we'll double check. We don't have a whole lot of fuel left, but we'll turn the lights off. We don't really need to do that. And notice it's draining power, so we need to make sure we always have power in our command module. So no point leaving the lights on. And we just time accelerate. See you later, Mun. It's been fun knowing you. We stuck a flag in you, and now we're done. And so we just wait until we get into the Kerbin orbit. And we can accelerate some time a little bit more, I think, here. Alright. So, now we can check out our orbit here. And so, we have a periapsis. I think the most efficient way of going about doing this is wait till we're back up at the apoapsis again, and do the deceleration, and then hopefully we'll have sort of an intercept in the atmosphere of Kerbin, so we can start to maybe do a atmospheric deceleration final approach. I don't know if we have enough fuel to get us right to the Kerbin Space Center or not, but we'll give it a try. Unfortunately, time accelerated past the apoapsis a little bit, but whatever. We'll fire the engines. We'll get this going. It should be close enough, I think. So, looks like we could go back to the Mun if we wanted, with some kind of weird orbit there, but we'll send him home. One trip to the Mun I think is enough for one Kerbal who was sent out to just grab sandwiches and got tricked into interplanetary, not really interplanetary, I guess intersystem space travel. Here we go. Start, coming into the atmosphere a little bit. And I figure I'm just going to help out while we're sort of in the drag of the atmosphere, or slight drag. We're still in the fairly high upper atmosphere, so it will take a little while to decelerate. We'll just sort of lock on, and we might as well, use up the last of our fuel, and not much of it left, I don't think. There we go. So we can ditch that. And we might as well use some of the RCS, I think. We can see if we keep this orbit, like if I give this enough orbits, eventually we will fully decelerate and enter the atmosphere. It will probably take a while. And that's pretty much what I do. We're going to do, might as well use the RCS to help us out, slow down a little bit. Unfortunately, what happened, I ended up losing the last little section of this video, where basically we do orbit, I don't know, a dozen times or more. That's pretty much it. Just each cycle, the apoapsis is getting a little bit slower. Ran out of RCS long ago, so it's literally just waiting until we have a deceleration, the deceleration is enough that we're dragged into the planet. So unfortunately I lost some of that video, and I don't actually have the landing. What actually happened was, by no calculations of me whatsoever, this was pure dumb luck, we actually landed 70 kilometers just east of the Kerbal Space Center in the ocean. So we were actually able to recover this spacecraft, surprisingly. At this point, though, it's just pretty much just orbiting. Each orbit getting slightly smaller, slightly smaller, slightly smaller. So I won't subject you to that. My next videos, I want to have full landings, of course, or at least returns to Kerbin. Hopefully I won't be losing any more video like this anymore, but yeah, unfortunately, this is it. This is going to the Mun. This is returning. You'll just have to take my word for the actual landing. But as you can see, it's just a matter of time before our orbit decays and we land somewhere. So this has been Kerbal Space Program 0.21 update, getting to the moon and back. I'm Shawn Kenney. Thanks for watching. So long for now.